Hey there, everybody. Thanks for joining me for another one-man review. Today I'm going to be talking about a really awesome book that I'm really happy got reprinted because by the time I found out about it, it was out of print. And it's by one of my favorite cartoonists that I've found in the last few months, and just somebody that Sean just interviewed. I'm really, really sad I missed that interview, but I've been battling, and you probably noticed that there's been some days missing and stuff on the channel. I've been battling a pretty wicked ear infection that gave me really bad vertigo, and then the antibiotics have been messing with me. So I'm really, really sad that I didn't get to join in on the interview with Linnea Sterte because her works, Stages of Rot, really made a huge impact on me. I've done a review on that. And then, yeah, I just got this in the mail like the day before the interview was set up because I had pre-ordered it from PIA when they did a re-release of it. They re-released it. It was out of print, but it got nominated for an Eisner for Best Production Design. And given that IDW's Parker Martini collection won, it's just really, to me, a tragic decision because this is far, far better produced and better designed book than that Parker book. I actually complained about how atrocious the print job was in that Parker book in our did a comparison video during my review of Sean's production job on Matt Battaglia's Living the Line book, House on Fire. So I'll link that at the end of the video so you can see why I thought the Parker book not only should have never been even nominated for an Eisner, much less winning it, especially compared to a book like this that's so gorgeous. So I'm glad that I got this right when we got an interview with Linnea, and so we're going to have like a little celebration of her work over the next couple weeks. I think we're hopefully going to talk to Neil Vanderpeet about Stages of Rot. And yeah, it just so happened that this all came at the same time. So this is a gorgeous piece of production. First off, it's got this like box that it goes into, which allows you, I think this is really, really smart production design because this is a very long book. It opens up lengthwise like this, and it's always a bit of a pain to store those kind of books on a shelf. Normally, I don't like book covers, dust covers, but this is, and like boxes sometimes are cool, but this is like a really sturdy box, and it solves a problem of being able to put it on your shelf looking like a book that fits in with all the rest of the books. Plus it's just got, you know, Linnea's beautiful art on it with her delicate lines and you know, very kind of European drawing style with the beautiful colors. So really, really, really think that's smart design and production. Then the book itself is bound, you can see here on the side, actually open binding, which makes it feel like a nice special little artist book. And then it's got nice thick cardboard cover with just a white and a blue ink printed on it. And so it feels like this is something I used to do. Actually, I would just get the backing boards from my comics, you know, and I would draw on them with black and white and use it as a toned paper. So it has this really tactile feel of like a screen print, you know, or an actual just someone painting on something. You can see it's got this beautiful in paper patterns with little pictures. She has a dedication here for Grandpa, who gave me the old Mont Blanc pin with these frogs were drawn, which is really touching to me, you know, just like to create this connection. And the whole book is so sweet and is so much about home and family and the value of that, but also wandering and friends. And so that all seems, you know, just kind of well synced up to me. Another thing that I really like about this is that because the content is happening in Japan, Linnea has decided to do really, really long landscape compositions, which is something you don't ever see in the history of Western art. We're so bound by this idea of the golden rectangle, the golden ratio as like this perfect ratio for beauty that we inherited from the Greeks, that we didn't ever really get long compositions or tall compositions like you see in Chinese and Japanese art. So that she took that upon herself and is using, you know, a very Moebius European influenced line, but then combining that with obvious interest in Japanese woodblock cuts and the kind of line that comes from that, which would have been an influence on how European comics were working with the clean line and the flat colors and stuff. It's like tying together those two artistic traditions from the wood block up through, you know, the influence it had on early comics, and then bringing them together. Now it's also printed in, you know, this one spot color, so it has, like, you know, just this real presence on the page. But dealing with these long compositions is great, and I'll show a couple others where it's not stitched across the page, so she's actually able to make it look like there's two panels that are also one panel, and I think gets some really powerful storytelling stuff out of this. So the story here is a frog, this young frog meets a couple traveling toads, and they're describing to the young frog the tropics. These are frogs in Japan, and winter's coming, and the frog is he's a young frog learning about fall and winter, and they're describing the tropics, and they're saying all over these islands you'll find wondrous fruits and flowers and insects and waterfalls and creeks, and all those things exist in nature for you to enjoy, so you'll never have to work ever again. And they're presenting, you know, basically the idea of utopia. It's a beautiful place. You can just hang out and do whatever you want. Life is easy. You'll never have to go through winter. And so the young frog is like, yeah, it's like, of course I want to go there. And so sets out on a journey with them. And that's pretty much the book, is this simple kind of little fable of like all the, reminds me kind of like a Pilgrim's Progress or something like that, where you just get all these little encounters. They're not so allegorically loaded, but you just get, you know, this frog's on the journey. Obvious, you know, I don't think I need to say much more about the art. It speaks for itself. There's some references here where the frog's got, like, it's obviously a little Astro Boy book, and I don't know what this one is. I'm assuming, given what I see in Linnea's work, that Miyazaki's got to be a huge influence on her, so maybe that's a copy of Nausicaa or something like that. Here's just another example of what having a longer composition does for you, and why the idea of the golden ratio as like this ideal of beauty is bullshit, because some of these longer compositions I think actually allow for more beauty. The types of strange balances that you have to do, or, you know, I mean, landscapes, when you actually see them, are immersive like that, and so it has an immersiveness to it. But just the absolute, like, stunning compositions here, when you're talking about, like, the composition should be balanced around this fulcrum point here, and, you know, it's obviously the things are placed in ways that pull that balance back, and it's just, when you get into that kind of composition and you pull it off so successfully, it's really stunning stuff, combined with that line work and everything. This scene cracked me up. I think it's a little reference to the old game Frogger, because you have these frogs coming through the bushes here, and I think this is really cool as well. You have basically a top-down shot of this four-way street that they're crossing, and then these plants kind of look like the top of the trees, but also you get that you've seen the frogs from the front. So Linnea is really good with kind of playing with perspective like this, and then you get the frogs like running across the road. So that's just, I think, a little shout out to Frogger, but really beautifully done. Here you get one of these panels, one of these pages that I'm talking about, that the line doesn't cross over the middle here, so you technically could read this as its own beautiful, like, abstraction right here. You know, this really simple abstraction, and then this as this, like, super Miyazaki. I'm thinking of, like, Ponyo, where they're going across the coast there. That just looks like the way he draws coastlines and stuff. But then you can also, you know, visually stitch the implied line together across and get this just very beautiful, again, composition that plays with weight and asymmetry in a really interesting way, where it's so heavily loaded. But the ability to kind of mentally separate these two by the page spread helps with that. The use of the word balloons and all of that is really cool. Here's another one of those things where you could stitch it together as two images, or you can kind of put this over here and imagine that the frog walked up. So the little frog, he follows them all, but he doesn't go to the tropics with them. I don't know if that's like a huge spoiler or not, but it's, you know, this, I don't think the story really has that kind of structure to it where you're looking forward to what the end is. And so in the end of the book, what you really get is you get that this is a book about going on your journey and growing and becoming a person moving away from home, and then being able to go back and find the value in home as well. And so with the dedication to her grandpa and stuff, this feels like a tribute to the value of both journeying and growing and expanding, but not losing your roots and appreciating your roots and stuff like that. So Linnea's stuff, like Stages of Rot, had such a wild kind of idea behind it about tracking this decaying body over millions of years. She always just has like this real connection to the earth, it seems like, and just a really healthy mentality about life that shows up in her books, things that give me a new perspective, things like that. So I really appreciate that about her work. I could go on about this book forever, but since it's, it's just kind of been reprinted, I would hope people would go out, so I don't want to show too much or give away too much. But I think this is an absolutely must-own book. To me, it's so frustrating. I don't know what the other ones in that category were, but that this lost to that Parker book is just it just shows that this is a popularity contest. Like people, this didn't get as wide a distribution, so not as many people had seen it. And the way the Eisners work is you just go through and you click on the options, and so if you haven't seen something, you're not going to click on it, which is too bad, because this is one of the most beautiful books I've seen this year for sure. Here also in the back there are notes, what look like notes at least, but they're really like at the end of the movie where they tell you a little bit more about the story. Not necessarily what happened after the story, but like here she'll talk about that there's cups of noodles, and it'll say vermin-sized versions of popular snack foods are produced under a bridge in a major urban center, perhaps Osaka, and are all dispersed along the coasts and waterways during the summer. On occasion, human joggers and children pass this facility, but a food manufacturing plant, even a very small one, is such a mundane sight they soon forget they ever saw it. So these are all actually like just little extra notes that existed in her head, obviously, as she was building the world of this story, that didn't have any place in the story, but she still wanted to share. And I think that's just fun and adds to the fantasy of it and all. So really, like I said, these works are some of my favorite things. This and Stages of Rot, these are some of my favorite things I've seen this year. And having seen and edited and posted the video that went up on Saturday with Sean talking to Linnea, and talking about her interests in trying out different things, I just can't wait. I'm really excited to see whatever else Linnea does. And really, really sorry, Linnea, if you do see this, that I couldn't make the interview. Hopefully we'll all get a chance to talk in a more extended format, all three of us at some point, because huge fan, and really, really was interested in everything that was said in the interview as well. So the interview's already posted by the time you see this, so if you haven't seen that, go back and watch that. I'll link both that and the House on Fire review, where I kind of dig in on why I think the Parker book was abysmal way before I knew it got nominated for production design. So you can check that out as well if you wonder why I'm talking shit on a book that's pretty well regarded, obviously. So definitely get yourself a copy of this book, though. You will not regret it. If you enjoy what we're doing here on the channel and you want to support us, there's two ways to do that. The first is through our Patreon. We have 2 different tiers of engagement on there. Any of the money that we get from the Patreon just helps us buy the books that we review, so it helps us keep going with the channel and allows us to put some money in other creators and publishers' pockets. We really appreciate that. Then if you want to support Living the Line itself, the best thing to do is support what Sean's doing with Living the Line Publishing. So we'll go ahead and take a look at one of his books now.
Like and subscribe and hit the bell, please, so Carson can finish reading his books and let me go home.